Today I'm going fishing at the Fort Warden Pier. Today is full moon. It is also the third day of consistent weather. Prior it was like raining and then not raining and low pressure, high pressure. Now we've had 3 days of steady weather. The fish were not biting 3 days ago. And so now after 3 days of steady weather and the full moon, oh, and there's one other thing. High tide happens at 6 p.m., which is getting close to sunset and right about the time that I leave the beach to go home. So I'll get to fish the last hour leading up to high tide before the sun sets. So I think it might be good. Today we'll be fishing for sculpin, flounder, and greenling, and we'll see if they're biting, as I suspect. Either they're biting. My fear is that maybe the water has already gotten to a certain cold temperature and they've took off to deeper water for the winter, but I don't think that's happened quite yet. I think the bite was off because the weather was really inconsistent, and that messes with their air bladders. They get really uncomfortable and they stop eating. Basically have a stomach ache. And by now their stomach ache should be gone and they should be very hungry. So today should be really good fishing. We're gonna see how it goes. So here we are on the pier, Fort Warden. And I'm gonna be using a 7-foot medium weight Shimano with a Shimano 4000 series reel, braid line, and then it comes to a 20-pound leader with about 12 inches up. I've got from the bottom. At the bottom I've got a jig with another ½ ounce weight to get you down on the bottom and to hold it there. And then about a foot up from there I've got this fly, kind of like a crab fly. It's actually a black woolly bugger. And then I've brought a little something extra today, some salmon meat to tip these flies with. And we're gonna see how this goes in a minute here. Okay, first cast. Here we are. Line is in the water. Oh, I'm getting a bite already. Getting a bite already. So now I'm just gonna keep my line tight. Wait till I feel that bite. Shit, so I guess we missed that one. But now, who's next? I'm just walking backwards because oh, I got a bite because I'm fishing with one hand. So the bite is on today already, first cast. Great sign. Just as suspected. The steady weather for 3 days. Full moon. The water is super clear, which makes me think that they're probably going to want to eat at nighttime when there's a full moon up. And if they eat all night long during the full moon, then they might not be as hungry during the daytime. They might stop feeding. Just don't know. You can see it's super overcast, so it's not like there's a lot of bright sunlight out. That's good. With water this clear. Okay, here we go. Come on, come on. I'm gonna keep filming this first cast just in case I get a hookup. I'm just walking backwards. Keep watching that rod tip, waiting for it to bounce. I'm on the bottom for sure. Gonna give it some slack, make sure the line goes limp, and then just keep pressure because otherwise you won't know if you get a bite. You've got to stay connected to that weight on the bottom. You've got to be dragging it across the bottom with a tight line. It's very important to have that tight line because fish bites, if it actually sees that thing coming by and tries to grab it, the only way you're going to know, the only way you're going to feel it and see that rod tip bounce is if your line is tight. There should be a little bit of pressure in the tip of the rod there. Just waiting for their bite to come. There's a little pressure there, so that's dragging over a rock. That lets me know I'm on bottom. Unless I'm dragging through seaweed. There's eelgrass and there's bull kelp out there. What is that, a fish? I just set the hook on something. I'm gonna reel it in. Let's see what it is. Stuck on something. It came loose. I probably got some seaweed on my hook. It's time to recast. Okay, that was a good cast. No bait now because the bait came off the hook. Put the rod up to cast. As I reeled it in, it knocked against the pier and knocked the bait off, which is now floating on the surface down there. Shit. That was a good bite and I missed it because I was distracted. Something ran with it. Wait for it to hit bottom. There's bottom. Reel. Bottom. Reel. Bottom. Reel. Bottom. Reel. Bottom. Reel. Bottom, reel, bottom. Bait on here and recast. cast. No bait though, because the bait came off the hook. The rod up to cast. As I reeled it in, it knocked against the pier and knocked the bait off, which is now floating on the surface down there. Shit. That was a good bite and I missed it because I was distracted. Something ran with it. Wait for it to hit bottom. There's bottom. Reel. Bottom. Reel. Bottom. Reel. Bottom. Reel. Bottom. Reel. Bottom. Reel. Bottom. Alright, I'm gonna put some more bait on here and recap. Okay, so we've been fishing for a half hour at least, and no fish have come up, so I got to change my approach and try something different. So I'm just gonna try casting out a lot more gentle and closer to the pier, and then jigging up and down and taking it off the bottom and letting it sink, taking it off the bottom, letting it sink. I'm seeing a lot of bait fish in the water, so I'm wondering if maybe this might imitate a bait fish or something like that. Once again, I'm getting bites, but no hookups. Gotta keep trying. Got one. First fish of the day. A very small Sculpin. So small. We're gonna release this guy, he's just too small. That right there is a Pacific staghorn. Pacific staghorn Sculpin. Green, yellow, and prickly. There we go, tipped up with some coho salmon. all kinds of bites. Feels like it might be a little better. Alright, I'm gonna call that a keeper. Pacific staghorn for the frying pan. Throw it in a bucket of water, keep it fresh. There it is. So as expected, the bite is really good today. I think I'm up to like 7. I have 7 fish. So I'm heading towards my limit today. And the current is coming in really strong now. And there's this seam of bull kelp. There's bull kelp that's out there, and if you look, you'll see the current sort of doing something weird around the bull kelp. So I'm casting to the edge of that, on that seam, the edge of the bull kelp, and then letting it sink to the bottom. Watch. Right, boom, right there. Let it sink to the bottom, and then just keeping my line tight. That's bottom right there, and I just keep my line tight, and I should be getting a bite here within seconds. That's what's been going on right here. There it goes. Let's see how this goes here. Trying to film and fish at the same time. So I just bring it in real slowly along the bottom. Somewhere along the bottom here, there's a bunch of Pacific staghorn sculpin holding right along the edge of the bull kelp. And the current's moving, so they're sitting in it, looking for food. Waiting for the bite. I just caught 3 in a row on the last 3 casts. That was a pretty good probability I'll catch one on this one. And I'm just staying connected to that lure on the bottom, meaning trying to keep my line tight. So if anything bites, I can feel it. And when they bite, all I do is pull back on the rod a little bit. Here we go. Stuck on the rod. Oh shit, here it is. I snagged some bull kelp. That's the first time that's happened today. So I'll get out of that snag. at this. Big ass Dungeness crab. It's kind of huge. Oh my god, it's heavy. Look at this thing. Look at this thing. Look at it. I don't know why it's fighting. Like a, man, that was a monster crab. Alright, one more cast. There we go, that's about perfect. So now I'm just letting it sink. I'm on the bottom. Get my line tight, wait for the bite. Sometimes it happens instantly. That's the bottom, bottom, bottom. Bottom right there. Bottom. Reeling very slowly. Well, I caught my limit today. 15 Pacific staghorn. 15 bottom fish. All my keepers were Pacific staghorn. I caught one baby flounder, which I released. But all in all, it was a great day. Conditions change really fast, drastically, really quickly. And so sometimes the fish are on every cast, and sometimes it's just the bite is dead. So it just changes. I caught my limit. So I caught my limit, guys. I caught 15 bottom fish, which is the daily limit for a recreational fishing license in Washington State. All 15 of my keepers were Pacific staghorn Sculpin. And that equated to, I don't know, a pound or two of fish. They're small fish, mostly head. So after they've been cleaned, there's not much left. But plenty to eat for dinner tonight and tomorrow, caught in one day. Didn't cost me much, 95 cents for the salmon bait. The bait, that was a silver salmon. And I had a lot of fun. I must have caught 20 fish. I let the 5 little ones go and kept the other ones. Now I'm racing back to the kitchen to cook these because I'm really excited to try a different recipe. I've always fried fish, always fried fish. Sometimes I've done some other things, baking. I do have a steamed seafood recipe I do, but I've never caught fish and steamed it. So tonight I'm gonna try that. I saw a recipe on YouTube for steamed sculpin, and it got me really curious about steaming sculpin and dipping it in butter. So I'm gonna try that tonight. Steamed sculpin, dipped in butter. I'm home. Here's my garden. It's time to cook some fish. I threw 10 of the fish in the freezer and 5 in the pot. And I wanted to steam them. Now I don't have a steamer, I just have a pot. So what I did is I put 2 jars, glass jars at the bottom of my pot to raise the fish up, and I put the fish on top of that. So the jars are acting as a steamer. So 5 fish, Sculpin, Pacific staghorn Sculpin, aka bullheads, and they are in the pot. They've been steaming for about 10 minutes now. I'm going to let them go for 15. Make sure they're fully cooked. That's really important with these sculpin fish because they can have parasites. So you want to make sure they're completely cooked. And so this fish will go for 15 minutes steamed. I've got got some melted butter here I'm going to be dipping the fish into, and I think this is going to be absolutely delicious. I've got steamed Sculpin dipped in butter. Nice. Come on. Fish dipped in butter? Yeah. Even dipped in butter, most people consider this a garbage fish. So, like I said, most people consider Pacific staghorn or bullhead sculpin a garbage fish. Most people don't eat them, they throw them back. I consider them absolutely delicious, fried or steamed and dipped in butter. A lot of bones to contend with, but it's kind of like the difference between eating wild food and domestic food, something like that. There's always a lot more to sift through, pick through, less meat on the bones, so to speak. And connecting with nature, the fact that I can just walk a number of miles with my fishing pole, catch a bunch of meat, come home, cook it, eat it, and enjoy it. I don't care if it's full of bones or what. To me, that's priceless. So today was an absolute success, and I look forward to my next fishing, cook and catch, or catch and cook adventure. And now it's time for a quesadilla.